Hi, my name is Laura and I'm a former swimmer from New Zealand. This video details my experiment going back into swimming for the first time in 8 years. The goal was to set a lifetime personal best in the 50 freestyle at the 2024 New Zealand National Swimming Championships. I'm currently 31 years old and the last time I competed I was 23. So I hope you enjoy the little video diary that I've got here, including some of the learnings that I took from this journey and what I would tell my 23-year-old self if I was still back training full-time. Officially 4 weeks into training to try set a personal best in the 50 freestyle at next year's New Zealand Swimming Nationals, so that's a sub 25.8 seconds. Not gonna lie, last week was awful. I was so tired, finding it really challenging to balance key sessions with shift work as a nurse, so that's been a bit of a learning curve. Overall, really enjoying changing it up in the gym, especially getting a lot more of that explosive training, plyometrics, and getting a bit stronger. Working with a coach on different movements with the kettlebells has been really exciting, and just trying to move my very long body a lot faster. So at 6'1" or 185 centimeters, it is quite challenging trying to get that really high end explosive speed. So trying to get those neuromuscular connections firing. It's all part of the process, and a few of the work-ons moving forward is definitely around the discipline, getting into bed, getting adequate rest, and trying to reduce some of life's stresses at the same time. Yeah, so bring it on. It's been a great day and a half of racing. So I'm 8 weeks back into training with the goal of trying to set a personal best in the 50 freestyle, and really honestly did not expect it to happen this soon. So I've managed to set a lifetime best 8 weeks coming back into training in the context of my current life. So I'm 31, I've got a full-time job, but it's just a different approach to training, and working alongside Michael at Coast and my gym trainer, trying to find ways to really up the intensity, both strength in the gym but also in the pool, adding in a lot more resistance training with parachutes, paddles and fins, trying to strengthen, I guess, my long levers at 185 centimeters. I suppose a big surprise, and I was trying to figure out what were the key influences in being able to swim a personal best. It's not a great time internationally, but for me personally, to be able to reflect on the fact that I'm training around work and I'm not swimming nearly as much. So for context, I looked at my Strava and I think I was only in the water for 3 hours last week, which, and I did say this to the coach, you know, like I'm so fatigued, like I'm not swimming as often as I think I should be, and really was honestly quite in a hole. And it's just illustrated that intensity really does change the game, and it might be a bit of my age as well, but it's really been a journey so far, trying to balance getting in the intensity around other things in life. I think having a really clear focus on your race strategies. So going in, I don't really care what anyone else is doing. When I was younger, I was really nervous racing. I was constantly thinking about what other athletes were doing and wondering, oh, should I be warming up like that? Should I be doing jumps or slapping my arms? And having that confidence to be like, oh, well, you know, I bury my head a bit on the freestyle. So the focus really is, for me, drawing in the core and keeping that head nice and neutral. Doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, that's what I'm doing. Core in, head neutral. The second point is definitely the mindset. So I'm really here to have a bit of fun. Like, yeah, I'm definitely serious. Like, I'm coming in, I'm doing my processes, my warm-up and my race strategy. But at the end of the day, I'm 31, I've got things going on now. The only reason I'm here is because I want to be. So that has really been quite a liberating feeling, that I almost feel in a weird way that I'm like 10 again and found this joy for a sport. And that's probably a key, is just the pure enjoyment of it and playing with different techniques like the no breathing. And the third thing is just understanding what fast swimming really looks like. So I spend a lot of time on YouTube now following and seeing what the best in the world are doing. You know, how many kicks do they take underwater? What are their breathing patterns? How do they hold their bodies? What are their arm positions underwater? We're so lucky now that we've got so much access to footage of the best in the world swimming. a few years ago, I couldn't have even seen what those top Olympic level athletes are doing. So being able to see what elite looks like has really helped me to modify my own stroke and try to be the best that I can be. I've finally got back into the pool today and it's Thursday. I've been unusually low on motivation, but kind of worse on discipline. Starting back into 2024, I've found that I'm putting all this extra pressure on myself to perform at the New Zealand Olympic trials in April, and it's really made me find it more difficult to train and enjoy the process. So my mind's kind of obsessed with these thoughts of what's going to happen in April, where it's really important to focus on the process. So I've spent a bit of time, I suppose, like thinking about how I can get myself out of this rut, because I'm finding it hard to do things that I normally love. Going to the gym is a place of happiness for me, and I'm just finding it like everything, mentally, physically, I'm just like resisting doing the work that needs to be done. And while I was thinking about getting back into that routine and really finding myself again, it's this idea of curiosity. And I tell you what, it really helped today. So I got to the pool with the only goal being, let's see what I can do. There's a few key focus points I've got for the 50 freestyle, mainly changing my body position, trying to get the back higher out and improving that kick cadence, and a few bits with the dive. Been experimenting a little bit about taking a big breath while standing to get extra air. And the session was really fun. I found that with focusing on trying to rewire that internal dialogue of, I need to be doing these speed sets, I need to be doing the resistance work, to what can I do with the speed work and the resistance, made me feel a lot more free and I guess open to experiment with how I can move my body and improve. And it was genuinely enjoyable. Like, I felt more like myself in the water, didn't feel dragged down by all this, arbitrary expectation about I need to be constantly better each day. And I think it really does, I find it harder and harder. The older we get, it's almost like we diminish this ability to play and enjoy things. And taking that time to sit back and focus on being curious rather than on I need to do this, I need to do that. Whether you're an athlete training for a specific event or you've got a big project due at work, I think the way that we approach certain tasks and the work that does need to be done with this mindset of what can I do rather than I need to do this can really help. And it definitely helped me today. So here's hoping I can kind of keep this mindset going, get myself out of this rut, enjoy swimming again, and I hope it helps too. So curiosity, what can I do, versus this black cloud of I've got this, I have to do this, I have to do that. Be curious, experiment, play. Today I'm doing an analysis on my 50 freestyle. So hoping that what I get out of this event can both help myself moving forward and help with your own sprint events. This is the third round of 50 freestyles, and the split in this video is a 25.7, which is bang on my all-time best. Now, one thing that is really interesting, the first two rounds were considerably off pace. So in this video, there were 38 strokes and swimming a 25.7 compared with the first two rounds swimming 26.3 and 39 strokes. Now, the reason I think that's important is because it just shows the amount of variability in the 50 freestyle. It is an absolutely clinical race, and half a second is a huge margin in one lap. So the first takeaway immediately is that importance of really nailing the specifics. For me, that includes the number of kicks I take underwater. Across the 350s, and there was one relay as well, I took anywhere from 6 to 8 kicks, and the stroke count ranged from 36 to 39, which, that is a huge change. So let's slow down the video and see what we can pick out. Alrighty, so right off the start, what I have noticed in this video is it still appears that I am lifting the hands off the start. If you look at the athlete on the left, Angus, he appears to throw the arms backwards, and that could have a lot more velocity off the start. So here's the start here. You'll see Angus's hands pulling back off the block. Now this is something I've really struggled with understanding the concept of. Some athletes perform this really well and you can see the block really moving. So watching Angus on the left, watch how those hands come back, the head lifts and that back leg comes up nice and high. This is going to allow him to get probably a lot further in the air. Whereas if you watch me on the right, the hands come up straight away, the legs do come up, but they're not as high as Angus on the left. Now I think the entry angle is good. In the sprint freestyle you do want a high angle dive. You can kind of use that lift off the bottom to have quite a steep angle in and out that allows the body to get nice and high off the start. What I'm pleased about is it appears the hands, shoulders, hips and toes go through the same entry circle. If you imagine I kind of had more of a rainbow dive, you see like almost a half belly flop, you end up entering in a bigger surface area and it really slows down the dive. It still appears that my head is buried, so I think learning to press the water down with the arm and kind of lift that head out at the start could be of benefit. So you kind of see Angus here, look at that, you can kind of almost see the entire cap. So he's broken out here, he's really high in the water. If you compare that to myself, the arm comes out, the head does look much lower. So there's a potential, if I can learn to press and get the head up higher, really get the back dry, it could help with the velocity off the start. Does look good and I'm pleased about is there's no hesitation in the stroke. So the hands are coming over, there's that windmill effect which you want in sprinting where the thoracic rotates and there's no pausing in the stroke. If we have a look at the entry, it does still look like it's fingertips first and there's a lot of length still in the stroke. Now it doesn't matter if you're swimming long distance or sprinting, speed comes from the length of your stroke combined with the how quickly you stroke. So the length with the stroke rate and also the direction of the pull. So here we can see the fingertips enter first quite far forward, so happy with that. What's disappointing with the above angle, obviously we can't see what's happening under the water because speed doesn't just come down to your stroke length times your stroke rate, it comes down to the direction of your pull as well. And in sprint freestyle, learning to have a longer lever, so you are pulling with a slightly straighter arm under the water, helps to get athletes higher in the water, but it does come at a much higher effect on the energy system, so it's not overly sustainable. If I had the underwater shot, what I'd expect you to see is that the pull is, again, there's less bend at the elbow, there is still that catch position with the flexion at the elbow, but it's not as pronounced as it would be in the distance swimming. In terms of the work-ons, I do think the stroke rate, this is back to full speed, the stroke rate definitely drops near the end of that 50. So this is going to come down to both conditioning in the pool, so maintaining stroke rate in specific sprint sets, but also strength in the gym, making sure that not only is the technique and the connection in the stroke important, but that the velocity can kind of stay. Okay, it's the final hurrah. This is the end of a 7-month journey that started last September. I decided to come back to training to see if I could set a lifetime best in the 50 freestyle as a 31-year-old. And life's changed a lot since then. I'm now working full-time as a nurse. I've just recently moved into my first home and there's a lot more, I suppose, other focus points in my life at the moment. And I thought I'd take this chance to do a bit of a feedback each day, both on the racing and some things that I've learnt along the way that I wish I could go back and tell my younger self back when I was training full-time. And I think today the first one would just be about curiosity. It is incredible how much we can see now. You can go onto YouTube and find examples of elite level swimming from world championships, from Olympic games, and you're seeing angles from underwater, especially on social media. A lot of these guys do film videos of themselves performing skills and swimming that you can really learn a lot from. And even this morning, watching Hazel swim her 25.8 50 butterfly, not only was that pretty badass and awesome to watch, but the stroke rate that she holds, how well she times that finish, it's really quite useful to reflect on how other people swim to see whether you can trial things yourself. So I think the first reflection point after the second day of heats along this journey would be to maintain that curiosity. Look around, see what the best in the world do, and see if you can emulate different styles of training. And this doesn't mean that you'll do exactly what others are doing, but it means that you've got a broader range of technical ideas that you can try and test out yourself. I did try something brand new for warm-up today. So chatting through with my support team, we kind of had this plan to really activate that central nervous system. So I actually did a HIIT workout on pool deck. So I set the timer for 20 seconds on, 45 seconds of rest, and I did exercises like double unders with a skipping rope, some power push-ups, jumping and pogos, where you kind of minimizing contact with the ground with little jumps. The idea behind that is you're just getting the body firing fast and translating that into the swim later. So I think that was actually a really good way to test a new workout protocol, and I was sweating beforehand, I got the body moving fast, and it's something that I will try to integrate again for the next race. One of the key takeaways that I've learned coming back to swimming is that my weight alone will not win or lose me events. Weight is a really important part of the overall athletic profile, but it should never be looked at in isolation. Things like swim speed, kick, pull speed, vertical jump, weightlifting metrics, they all matter more than a simple number on the scale alone. And for me and many other athletes, the number on the scale can be quite an emotional trigger, and it has been something that I've genuinely struggled with during my swimming career. And I think the fact that now swimming lifetime bests at 31, but also being 7 kilograms heavier than I was last time I swam, has really illustrated the fact that the number isn't going to dictate the outcome. I'm much stronger now than I was 8 years ago. I can do movements in the gym like strict chin-ups or bent over rows and feel a lot more powerful weighing 7 kgs heavier than not having that strength in the gym. And it's been a really long journey to get here. By no means do I completely disregard weight. I think it's quite an important part of the entire picture. But looking back, I really wish that I wasn't so obsessed with the number that I was seeing on the scale. To keep a very long story short, I was absolutely obsessed with being under 70 kilograms. At 185 centimeters, that's relatively light, and I still remember standing on the scale like every single day waiting to see 69 and then finally 68. And that came off the back of some advice given to me by quite a senior coach that thought I would race better a lot lighter. And so having the confidence to, I suppose, try to lose the weight, see if it does have an impact, but also get the support to do it well. I used to restrict a lot of eating, which was probably not great for the overall performance. And so I think getting older and a bit more mature, trying to separate the emotion out of the number on the scales is really important. Even I still do have a range that I want to fall within, and coming into the nationals I'm actually at the upper range of that. I weigh 75 kilograms at the moment, and I wouldn't probably want to be much more than that, especially right before the event. It is quite important in the last 1 to 2 weeks that the weight stays really stable, otherwise you're just pulling through a higher mass. I think overall that key takeaway, and something that I would love to tell my younger self, is that power to weight is what matters. The weight is just one objective measure and a whole kaleidoscope of important factors about what it takes to be a fast athlete. Racing is just about flow.
So coming back to swimming, I have really enjoyed picking apart aspects of the technique and really working on isolated aspects of everything from the start to the angle of the entry, the underwater style of kicking, so whether I'm going for a bigger kick, more undulation of the upper body, the number of kicks, and then into the technical aspects of sprinting. So more of a straighter arm under the water, trying to anchor the hips by using a strong core and allowing that kick cadence to come up. But that's a lot to think about. So I think one of the best learnings that I've taken after a couple of races over the last 7 months is just about letting the race just unfold and really not overthinking that process. I'm somebody that does love to think about things, but that sometimes translates into tension in the muscle and not the best result. So to kind of, I guess, find a balance between the both, I sometimes will use a single trigger word if it's important to the technical aspect of the race. In the 50 backstroke, for example, at the Nationals, a race that I'm not really accustomed to anymore, off the start, my one trigger word was arch. I was trying to get a slicker entry off the start, trying to go through that little circle with the hands, shoulders, hips and toes to try maximize speed. And that single word arch was just enough to me, was enough for me to get set up off the dive and then just swim hard. But it's interesting because this is just the way that I think I race better. I kind of think about it like we've done all the dress rehearsal in the training, really done the quote unquote overthinking, you know, different styles of that start, as I said, different technical aspects. And the biggest challenge has actually been to take confidence that whatever will unfold in the race is going to be a result of the training that you have done prior to that. So it's about active thinking in the training, and even in the warm-up I'll still think a lot, but racing is just about allowing that to flow. It would be interesting to see if it was the same for a longer distance event. What I've learned is all applicable to a 50-metre race, which is obviously done very quickly, but don't know if it would be different for a longer event where tactics and split speed and things are quite different. Final reflection on the journey back into swimming. Control the controllables. I am a swimmer that continues to get really nervous even into my 30s. It's amazing how similar it does feel, even back when I was swimming in my teenage and early 20s. But I think what I have learned to do a bit better is to really focus on the things that I have control over. Last night, for example, I had a horrific sleep. I think I was excited for the 50 freestyle today. And so I didn't get nearly as much sleep as I would have liked. My right bicep is weirdly quite sore, like I'm wondering if it's from the 50 backstroke start a couple of days ago. But those are things that I have no control over. And when my mind starts to get a little bit, you know, that little negative voice that's niggling away saying, oh, you're not going to swim fast because you're tired, or, you know, you did one bad start in the warm-up, I think it's quite useful, and I found ways to just kind of shut that out, either by listening to music that I enjoy or by focusing on especially my breath. A lot of exhale helps me to really focus on what I feel in my body rather than getting taken away by these silly thoughts that are trying to ruin my experience. You know, and this goes all the way back to some amazing coaches that I've had. Growing up in Gisborne, I remember Greg Mead when I was 14 at my second age group nationals, telling me just to focus on my lane. You know, no other girl is going to jump into the same lane as me and swim my race for me. So there's no point in getting distracted by the performance of others. You know, I used to really question whether what I was doing was right. I'd always be looking at the other girls that I was racing against and wondering whether I could win or whether I couldn't. And that's been one of the more liberating things coming back. You know, the only expectation is that I'm doing this for myself and just to see what my training and my body can do. And it's really useful because you can't control what the others are going to do, but you can control what you can do.